Without the right type of outreach, you could lead someone to... Okay, so yeah, feel your emotion. It gets you off your butt to do something. But when you act that emotion out, that's when I believe it becomes detrimental. Now, is all aggressive activism not effective? I don't know. I haven't done the study to show that aggressive activism never works. I think it probably does work when there's people first shaming and they become, but I think for the most part, when we're talking about the majority of people, I think the respectful approach has worked better, just in my own experience. I always talk to people like they're my friend as far as I can. Sometimes I'm a bit tired and a bit short, but we try our best. But I'm always, hey brother. You'll never see me insulting anyone though. Calling them a name. If they call me something, I don't call them a name back. Keep it on, based on the topic. But I find it lets people drop their guard a bit, especially when I say, I used to consume animals as well. For 26 years. I was also committing conscious acts of violence in gangs, so if anyone should be judged, it's me. So it just brings me down a little notch there, and they understand that way. I was consuming animals too. I was contributing to the same harm I'm asking them to stop, and it opens up the door for dialogue a little easier. People think you're being superior even when you're trying not to. Okay, so you've got to be a little bit conscious of that. Don't be afraid. When I first went vegan, I had vegan amnesia. I forgot that I'd been consuming animal products for most of my life, and everyone was an animal abuser except for me. So, yeah, be conscious of that. Now, I always ask, who here, because everyone thinks they knows, who here thinks they know what the most effective form of activism is? If you've seen my workshop, which no one has actually called me out on this yet, if you've seen my workshop, you would know that... Does anyone know?
5 left. They're going to rush us.
No. The most effective form of... that's very good. It's very good to teach people, but the most effective form of activism is the form of activism you are personally, individually, uniquely best at. Okay? Everyone is unique in their talents, skills, and abilities. Not everyone is the same. We're all different people. We all are good at different things. Let me give you an example. You don't get the public speaker to burn the vegan food, do you? And you don't get the vegan chef to come up and ruin the speech. Okay? We're both as important in our designated areas, though. So I'll give you another example. James Aspey is an amazing public speaker. Okay, that's what he does. He's done hundreds of speeches. But without the person organising his speech, getting him there, making the venue, the speech doesn't happen. So who's more important? James Aspey would be talking to a tree if he didn't have someone organising the event and getting people to come. So we all work together. So don't feel inadequate if you can't do outreach like Ed can do outreach. He's one of the best when it comes to that sort of thing. But you might be really good at something else that he's not good at. Okay, and we need you doing that. So be a little bit more creative about, don't wedge yourself into doing one form of activism when it's just not you. Okay, we need you in other areas. So think about that. Also, I'm going to tell you what I think is really effective form of activism. And I'll give you some really powerful examples of why. Because people go, I know the most effective form of activism. Okay, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence that that's so effective? Here's my evidence. Who here doesn't know who Gary Yourofsky is? A few. Do you even vegan? Come on, everyone. Everyone should know who Gary Yourofsky is. If you don't, check out his speech, best speech you'll ever hear. Yeah?
NBM.
You've seen that? Okay, you've seen the speech. His speech is more famous than he is. It's crazy. But Gary Yourofsky, animal liberation activist, he was most controversially known for liberating about 1,000 mink, served 6 months in prison with murderers, okay, for liberating animals. Figured out that maybe education-based activism might keep him out of prison and, be more effective. He did around 2,000 speeches to around 50,000 students over the course of his public speaking career. Okay. Someone in the audience filmed one of those speeches. Wasn't even him. He didn't ask him to do it. They just did it. Got put up on YouTube. It's gone viral. 3.5 million views for his main speech. Parts of that speech are still going viral on Facebook today. okay? If it wasn't for someone putting that up on social media and other activists helping that go viral, no one would even really know who Gary is. He would have just been another teacher, fallen on the ears of those in the classrooms. Some are interested, some are not. Now, everyone really in the vegan movement, except for you three, know who Gary Yourofsky is. But that just goes to show how powerful making videos is. You can reach so many people with a very low energy to outcome output. People say to me, you know, Joey, I'd love to start making videos, but I don't have the amazing camera that you have. So if I save for 3 years and get the good camera you got, maybe I can start making videos then. No. And they say, well, you know, the lighting's not absolutely right. I haven't had my hair done. Everything's got to be perfect. No. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. 3 important sentences. This isn't my quote. I heard it and I use it. It's very, very important though, because when I first started, I had this little iPhone 5. I bought it for $100, okay? Second hand, cheap. Had a little crappy $400 or $500 computer, and I just started talking into my phone. That's how I started. The beauty is, not everyone is going to watch your first video, and trust me, you'll thank me for that. Because if I had the reach that I have now back then, oh God. So you have time to improve your, you know, the way you speak and what you say on camera and edit, and you know, you just have time to grow, and as you grow, your reach increases. It's really good. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Now, without social media, let's not kid ourselves here. Without social media, there is no movement. Mathematically impossible. They have advertising, they have tradition, they have habit, they have billions of people repeating the same crap. Just would not be possible for us to break through that. Okay? If you went vegan 30 years ago, 25 years ago, or 20 years ago like my partner Laura, you got a pamphlet from an ALF member talking about the egg and dairy industries. Otherwise, you wouldn't have known. You would have thought vegetarian was the moral choice because it's pretty obvious that's a chopped up murder victim, even though I didn't see it. But now, we have social media. Someone can make a video, flick it up on Facebook, it goes viral across the world. Everyone knows what the horrors of the dairy industry now. If they don't, they're living under a rock, but we make sure they see and they know because we comment on everything that they post, and vegans are all over social media and we work 24/7. They can't stop us, even working the weekend. Don't even have to pay us. Dairy industry are paying people and we, don't worry, we work overtime. So true. So utilize social media, okay? If you did all of your activism, look. People say this, they're not activists. I just no way. If you did all of your activism from your bedroom on a computer,
I knew he was gonna be a retarded engineer.
And you are persuading people to turn vegan, and you are influencing vegans to be activists, okay? You are an activist. Don't let anyone tell you you're not.
Thank you, citizen.
2 forms of activism I'm going to talk about tonight. First one. Now, these aren't the only forms of activism, as I explained. These are just some that I really like to do and I get involved with. First one is Anonymous for the Voiceless. And you don't have to do this under Anonymous for the Voiceless. I do. I also get involved with vegan outreach. That isn't Anonymous for the Voiceless. But their style, with the TVs, the masks, just showing slaughterhouse footage and doing vegan outreach, basically is the 2 fundamental things. Showing slaughterhouse footage, vegan outreach. I'm going to give you some outreach tips. Anyone not know what AV is? It's more, yeah, they're more well known than Gary Yourofsky. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to give you some outreach tips. These apply no matter where you do it, really. Like, no matter where you do it, you can apply these tips. I don't always follow my own advice because I get stuck on autopilot. Like I said, sometimes I'm tired, sometimes you just forget. It's okay.
I will.
Not trying to be perfect here, but we're just striving to be better advocates. The first one is building rapport. Something people overlook, and I overlook sometimes, but building rapport. Building rapport is basically adapting to who you're speaking to based on their characteristics, personality traits, the way they speak, softer, are they more, broader, are they, I'll give you an example. You're showing some dairy footage, an elderly lady walks up and she says, "Hello dear, what are you showing here?" And you go, "Dairy cows are raped in the dairy industry and have their children stolen off them." so you can eat cheese, and she falls on her back and she nearly passes out. You haven't built rapport with that individual. You might be a little bit more softly spoken, you might choose your language a little bit more, okay? Another example, group of 15-year-old dudes, one's smoking a cigarette, they think they're pretty cool. You don't talk down to them like you're their teacher, okay? Worst thing you can do. You really haven't connected with them. Sometimes I get it down on their level. Hey bro, have you seen this before? I don't think it's cool to be cruel to animals. I've been to prison and I just don't think, oh, you've been to prison? Oh, you're my mate. So building rapport, okay? You probably do this anyway when you're in the supermarket in different scenarios. When you go into a job interview, you obviously conduct yourself in a different way. Find out, and basically it's about understanding who you're talking to. They walk up to you, who you're talking to. Is she a parent, 3 children? She might really empathize with the maternal bond that is broken when dairy cows have their calves stolen from them. Is he a bodybuilder? Does he look fitness orientated? Maybe they want to know that they don't have to stab animals to get protein. That's a really good point. Number 1 point for me, that's what the first thing I looked up was protein. Might seem silly to us now, but really it's an important point. So just understand who you're talking to and just analyze them and go, okay, this is who I'm talking to, this is the game plan. You get better and better as you go. But like I said, sometimes I forget and just emotion gets in the way, but that's fine. Always, even when you're not on AV or doing your vegan outreach, have vegan info on you. I have this little fanny pack. This fanny pack used to have other things in it when I was in gangs, but now it's got vegan info. So I keep these cards concise, meaning a small amount of information, because you don't want to overwhelm people, trust me. We live in a but now it's got vegan info. So I keep these cards concise, meaning a small amount of information, because you don't want to overwhelm people, trust me. We live in the age of short attention spans, don't we? People want to watch small, short videos. Few links: ethics, environment, health. Really, really short. For environment and health, Cowspiracy have done the research. The sources are linked. People go, oh my God, it's vegan propaganda. Just point them to the sources. They're all linked there. Same with What the Health. It's vegan propaganda. The sources are linked with the peer-reviewed studies, okay, on the website. So you've got the movie and the facts page. With ethics, choose one that is local to your region. I don't know if you have local slaughterhouse footage you want to show people. Something that they can relate to, something that's at least current. Okay, not like from the 1960s that happened in Zimbabwe and they can just go like that. They're not going to connect with that. I've got Darius Scary, Gary Yourofsky's speech, Land of Hope and Glory. I use Land of Hope and Glory because I did a lot of my advocacy in the UK, obviously, and I've got Watch 1,000 Eyes because it's Australian. On the back, always have a resource where people can get coaching for going vegan. I only introduced this I'd say about 18 months ago, but it's very important. I'll tell you why. Because you can inspire about 1 million people to go vegan if you want. You can, okay? It's possible. But what happens after that? They're inspired. Oh, I've seen Joey's speech. I've seen that video on YouTube. Really inspired. I'm going to go vegan. They go back out into the environment. Okay, the parents are like, oh my God, you're going to die of protein deficiency. Their teachers are like, what are you doing? You need dairy for calcium. Their friends are making fun of them. They go to the store, they buy tofu and 1 carrot. They eat that for the week and their hair nearly falls out. They run up a hill and nearly pass out. Then they're making a video saying that veganism nearly killed them and they're doing anti-vegan activism because they didn't have the right coaching and information, okay? I use Challenge 22. Okay, the reason I use Challenge 22, a few reasons. Takes 21 days to rebuild a new habit, build neural pathways or whatever. They also have a 67% success rate at keeping people vegan after the challenge. Okay, I know veganism isn't a challenge, it's a moral principle against the exploitation of animals. I'm aware of that, but if it keeps people vegan, that's a good thing. How do they get those numbers? They ran surveys. They follow people with binoculars. No, they ran surveys afterwards. The ones who didn't go completely vegan after the challenge reduced their meat intake or animal product intake or went vegetarian. I don't ever advocate for that, by the way, and I don't tell activists to ever advocate for reduction or for going vegetarian. Clear vegan message, and inadvertently, If they do that, not because you told them to, if they do that, it's not a bad thing, okay, but we should be consistent about the message we put out. I want to talk to you about something that's really obvious, probably to you, the power of showing slaughterhouse footage. Okay, I don't think there's anything more powerful than showing someone what happens inside of those hellholes. Because people have this picture in their mind. They make this picture up. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe, you know, the propaganda put out by the industry.
No,
They
it's for another
know what
century
goes on
to
there.
read.
No, they don't. They don't know what goes on in there until you see it. Okay, you cannot describe it. Words do not do it justice. Nothing I say will do it justice. The footage does not lie. When people see that, they cannot unsee it. That's it. They see the flesh on their plate and they know it was torn from the body of an animal who drowned in their own blood in a hellhole. Okay? This is the information they get from, 1 minute of this footage. Intense. There is a problem with it though, and we need to be mindful of this when you are showing instances of cruelty on a particular farm, some outrageous, outside of the box abuse in a slaughterhouse. It's all abuse, I know, but there might be something that's just outside of the guidelines, like someone booting a turkey or something like that. You show that, maybe you show battery hens in cages. Without the right type of outreach, you could lead someone to the conclusion that there is a humane way or a moral way to exploit animals. It could, they see the battery hens, they could go, oh, they're in cages, maybe I'll go out and buy free range, like that's a moral choice. We know that it's not. Okay, they might say, okay, well, they kicked that animal before they shot them in the head and stabbed them in the throat. Maybe if we take the kicking out of it, then it would be a moral choice. Maybe I'll select which slaughterhouse I buy my flesh from, like those humane gas chambers. No, we don't want them to leave with the idea that there is a humane way to enslave someone, to separate families, and to kill them, okay? So we have to be very careful when we're showing that type of footage, and you take it to the humane debate yourself. Do you think there's a humane way to do this? What does that look like? How can you humanely kill someone if they want to live? These type of questions, very, very important. Without an outreacher, without someone on vegan outreach, people just see caged hens, I'm going to go buy free range. Okay, so it's important that you're onto that as well. As much as you
just too
can,
high IQ.
and as much as you want to lash out sometimes, remain respectful. Okay, remain polite. Now, respectful looks a bit different to different people. I think like there's a spectrum. Like obviously, you're confronting them. No, we're just talking to them at the screen. As long as you're not insulting them, swearing at someone, okay, and you're maintaining, this level of respect in the conversation. I would never ask any of you to respect someone's actions when it comes to their harm and exploitation of animals, though. You don't have to do that. Okay? There's a difference between respecting someone's choice to harm animals, no, and showing them respect in the dialogue. Different. Okay? When you are on outreach, you are not representing yourself. You're not representing other vegans. Okay? You're representing the animals. So it's important that that dialogue, turns out, in a respectful way. Some people are offended by you even describing what happens to animals. Oh, you're sensationalizing it. No, that's different. That's different. As long as you're maintaining, respectful dialogue, still explain what happens to animals. A lot of people will be offended no matter how you approach it. So don't have to respect their actions, but show them respect in the conversation. Also, everyone you talk to is unique, okay? I want to tell you a story about, you've probably seen this video. There's a guy in a blue tractor, farmer in a blue tractor. He wouldn't stop his tractor. It actually went viral on Facebook. Asked him to stop, he wouldn't stop. And I was moving back, and he just kept driving. He acted like we weren't even there, basically. He looked really uncomfortable. Anyways, we stepped out the way, and he goes, I'll be back. And he dropped his cow off to be slaughtered, came back, and I said, what's up, dude? Like, we only want 30 seconds to say goodbye to your animals before they're butchered. What's the problem? He said, you guys are making this harder for me than it already is. one of these farmers who, cares about their animals but thinks there's no other choice but to butcher them for their body parts and sell their body parts. He was quite emotional, this guy. So I was like, wow, he's having an emotional response. I want to talk to him about it. I said, you don't have to do this. You don't have to kill your animals. There's another way. There's other ways to make a living. And he was having this emotional response, and you could see like he was tearing out of his eyes. Someone behind me started talking about rainfall and like grain, how much grain it takes to, feed an animal, and it took it out of his emotion and into his logic. When you have someone having an emotional response, you keep it there. Okay? We want someone to feel something. We want people to feel something. Okay? We have a society full of apathetic people. They're steering away from having an emotional response. People won't always remember what you say to them, but they will remember how you made them feel. If they feel angry that you raise this question, good. That's a feeling. You feel angry. I'm angry too. Yeah, I'm absolutely disgusted that we're all paying for animals to be murdered, and I did for 26 years. You should be angry. That's a good emotion. Feel it and change. You don't have to bring emotion into it at all, though, with veganism. Sometimes you meet people, you can't even take it there. You try. You're just like, no, they don't want to have an emotional response. They're just logic. They just want to talk about logic, and that's fine, because it's a completely illogical position to eat animals. Okay, because most human beings have a moral system that they adhere to when it comes to other human beings, even other animals, certain species of animals. But they completely disregard that moral system when it comes to cows, pigs, chickens, fish, lambs. Okay, so they contradict their own moral system. It's really easy to point this contradiction out with the right line of questioning. Completely illogical. So don't have to bring emotion into it at all, but if you can do it, I'm really good at drawing emotion out of people. Anger, people get upset, outraged. That's okay. Now it's time to change. We're not in the business of making people feel comfortable with exploiting animals or paying for them to be gas chambered and stabbed. If you haven't participated in vegan outreach, maybe it's AV, maybe it's some form of vegan outreach, I highly recommend you do. For the fulfillment factor, it's actually good for many different reasons. One, you're helping animals, which is great. Sometimes you can feel overwhelmed with what's happening. You might feel helpless. When you go out and have conversations with people, you watch them change in real time. Nothing more fulfilling than that. Someone taking a card, signing up to Challenge 22, and you go, oh, 67% chance they'll stay vegan. And then you start doing the vegan calculator and you go, how many animals have I helped over the course of this person's life? What if they turn some people vegan? What if they turn into an activist? What if they start their own save group? What if their video goes viral because I influenced them? You start doing that and then you go fulfillment. Okay, sometimes you can feel like your family's not listening, or you feel ostracized, your friends just don't want to hear it anymore, and you just feel like, what am I even doing? Like, is this even working? People that stop at the screens when you're doing anonymous for the voiceless type outreach, they stop because they want to talk about this. They're interested. This is your chance, your opportunity. You've been holding all that in. Get them. So go for it. I definitely think you should be incorporating fulfilling activism into your regime. If you're only focusing on the harsh stuff, it's not good. Okay, now, you raised a very good point, which is this part of the talk here. One of the most effective methods for educating people, called the Socratic method. Now, I was doing this for years before I knew what it was. And people in the comment section actually called me Vegan Socrates, and I had to Google who he was. It's Socrates, who's that? No, that's pretty bad. But I Googled him, apparently Greek philosopher who taught people by asking questions. And I was like, wow, I do that. I used to do these interview videos, and now they've become quite popular online. There wasn't many people doing interview videos when I first started about 3 years ago. I had a series called Joey vs. the Public. One other YouTuber inspired me to do them, Martin from Think About This. And then about a year later, some other activists come and did it. But it is, the reason they are popular is because they are so effective, because you can watch their mind going, oh, you know, that line of questioning. With the right line of questioning, you can lead someone to the vegan conclusion. They feel like they've reached it themselves. You haven't told them. You've asked them. People love to be interviewed. They love to be interviewed. Like, they love to give their opinion on stuff. And they trip over their own contradictions in the process. And they're like, yeah, no, I do care about animals. Do you eat animals? Yeah, I love the taste of bacon. Do you think taste, pleasure justifies an immoral act? No, well, yes, well, I don't know. Would you eat a dog? Oh, no, because I love dogs. Okay, what's the difference? There is none. I don't know. Oh, their brain starts to, malfunction. So effective. And you can remain polite, respectful. You don't even get upset. Okay? Because asking questions diffuses... I'll tell you something. Sometimes people say something that's really hurtful to you, and they don't know that it's hurtful because they're innocently ignorant as to the plight of animals. They have not witnessed what you have. Many of you probably seen animals going through hell, and it's really disturbing. So they might say something to you, and they don't understand the weight of what they just said. Okay, but you do. So you might feel like an emotion here. You might feel like, oh, God, I tell you right now, I'm pissed off. How do you deal with that without lashing out? Which is what people ask me all the time. Joey, how do you stay so calm? Okay? Feel the emotion, and instead of reacting to it, which I should apply into my other parts of my life because this would be really helpful because sometimes I get so pissed off. But instead of reacting to your emotion and acting, it's like an unconscious action, a reaction. If someone taps your knee, you go. Instead of that, we respond. We go, okay, I feel like this. I'm going to respond. When you respond with a question. Important question. Is there a humane way to kill someone who doesn't want to die? How can you love some animals and butcher others and eat their bodies? Whatever the question may be, dependent on what they say, okay, you respond based on what they say, diffuses the argument, gets them back on their back foot, okay, and you're back in control of the conversation. Really powerful stuff. Now, you can have someone on outreach, you might know heaps about the dairy industry, and you've just been itching to tell someone about it, and then someone stopped at the screen and you're just like 10,000 words a minute, brrr, dairy cows. Brrr. Now, you might feel like that's really effective, but it only takes 1 second for that individual to switch off, okay? Your lips are moving, their lights are on, no one's home. All of a sudden, they're wondering if they left the oven on and when they're going to pick the kids up from school. Oh my God, they're still talking. When they're going to give me this pamphlet. Oh my God. If you ask them a question, all of a sudden they go, oh, they just asked me something. They have to have some type of cognitive thought process and then answer, okay? Based on their answer, you ask them another question. They have to critically think again, give you an answer. So then you know something's happening. You know something's happening. People have society thinking for them, the TV thinking for them, their parents thinking for them, friends. Okay? We want people to think for themselves. And when you ask someone a question, you turn that on. You switch that on in someone. It doesn't switch on off after that. You've started something. Questions don't end on outreach. They live on. They go and ask their family member the next day, is there a humane way to kill someone if they don't want to die? What about you? Oh, how can we don't eat dogs, but they start asking people those questions. They might repeatedly ask themselves that question. Questions are so powerful. You just can't expect someone to retain information like that, like heaps of different information. They might retain a few parts of the information, but a question lives on. So think about that. Next time you're on outreach, try to navigate a whole conversation using questions alone. Okay? Not even on outreach, just with someone that you're in a debate with. Just try navigating the whole thing with questions. Powerful. Really powerful. Now, I want to talk to you about another form of activism. This form of activism, probably the most effective form of activism, the most powerful form of activism I've ever participated in. The Save movement. Not just the Save movement, but what's a big part of the Save movement, which is bearing witness. Okay? Now, I used to speak up for animals before I'd met them. Before I'd met them at sanctuaries, before I'd met them at the front of a slaughterhouse. And I understood what was happening to them was an injustice. Okay? It's plain to see, watch slaughterhouse footage, that's messed up. Something changed in me though when I met them at the front of that slaughterhouse. okay? They just transmit this energy to you when you're witnessing them. And they are so terrified. They don't know whether you're their friend or their enemy. They don't know where they're going. You do, though, okay? How many people in the audience have been vegan their whole life? How many? None? That's fine. I wasn't either. So the way I look at it is I haven't been vegan my whole life. I paid for them to be on those trucks and go into that slaughterhouse. The least I can do is be there with them, you know, and bear witness to them once or twice. I recommend doing it regularly though. Like, it really does help remind you why you're fighting. Builds solidarity within the movement. Amazing quote that's echoed throughout the Save movement is, we should never turn away from suffering. We should move closer and try to help. Brilliant. So true. It lets the animals kind of know that, you know, we see them, we're here with them, and we're trying, you know. People say to me, often I get this a lot, like, what is standing out the front of a slaughterhouse going to do? You're not going to change the world like that. Get a job. I get that a lot. When you get a job, people like to stick their finger up and, you know, say that a lot. Nearly every one of my viral videos got over 1 million views. Nearly every one happened at the front of a slaughterhouse with the Save movement. Okay, debates, the blue tractor guy, that happened at the front of a slaughterhouse. My most viewed video ever, which helped start off the media campaigning in the UK, was me talking to 2 police officers at Scotland Animal Save. 6 million views, like millions of seeds planted. That one video alone. Intense, crazy, like thousands of vegans inspired to be activists. Okay, just by making videos with the Save movement. Now you might say, like, Joey, that's all well and good, but I've never had a viral video. I put up a video, gets 20, 50 views sometimes. Okay, that's amazing, 50 views. You try going out and talking to 50 individuals about this, okay? You're gonna burn out. If you hear plants feel pain one more time, you're gonna jump off a bridge. But think about that, you made one video, okay, reached 50 people. Think about if every individual in the Save movement worldwide made one video that reached 50 people. How big collectively is our platform? You might have, everyone's got about 20%, 50%. As you're vegan longer, you get 2% non-vegans in your friends list. But if we all reach out like that, that's how big is our reach collectively. That's what you've got to think of. If everyone had the attitude like, I only got 50 views, I'm not going to make a video, then, you know, we would never reach anyone. But that's why the Save movement is powerful, taking footage and pictures of the animals, sharing them with local individuals who are nearby that slaughterhouse, and you can say, here's the personality, the face, and the suffering of the animal that the flesh on your plate was torn from. Okay? You're making the connection. It's nearly as powerful as showing them what goes on inside of there. Sometimes it's actually more effective because when you put up a video of an animal being butchered, it gets censored like that, reaches no one. I have to be careful about the footage I put in my videos now. With the Save movement pictures, they don't get censored. More people see them. People are less likely to unfollow you. It's more of a G-rated kind of way of saying, like, these are the individuals, these are the victims that you're eating, you're consuming them. Because of you, they're in them trucks. And I think that that's a very powerful message to send. So people who think the Save movement doesn't work just don't understand how effective it really is. Not just on a personal level as an activist either, just fundamentally on a larger scale. But on a personal level, like I said, it's changed me in a way that I'll never be the same ever again. Like, people, when I talk about those victims, people can feel that energy from me. They can feel it. You take the experience from bearing witness and you go out and do your vegan outreach then. Okay? Conviction you speak with. You transmute that to others. If you haven't gone to bear witness, I highly recommend you do. And people say to me, this is very common and you're not alone when you say this, but people say, Joey, if I go out there and bear witness to the animals, I'm going to break down. You don't understand. I'm quite a sensitive individual. I'm just going to fall on the floor and collapse. It's going to be too much for me. Never actually seen that. Never actually
Okay.
seen that. I spoke to Anita Crank. She's the founder of the Save movement. She's never actually seen that either. What we see more of is people arriving at the Save for the first time, seeing those terrified animals in the back of that truck, quiet, terrified animals, and they have this realization when they see those animals. They realize that it's not about them, and it empowers them. And they say, I have to be strong for them and try to help them. Because as nervous as you feel, when you witness those animals, you go, wow, I feel pretty nervous at the front of this slaughterhouse. Imagine how
If
they
he
feel.
does sentry stuff,
I
I'm
get
not
to go
donating
home after
again.
this. They face a knife in the neck. Perspective. Very important thing to gain. This leads in perfectly to the next part of the speech, which is getting over the fear of doing activism. This talk is called fearless activism, but that's a lie. There's always some fear associated with doing activism, especially for the first time. But I'll give you some of the tips that have helped me get over that fear. The first is what the Save movement and bearing witness actually gives you, which is like a catch-22. It's perspective. Okay, so you're nervous to go to the Save, but once you go, you gain something very powerful, which is perspective. This always helps me when things get tough, and I go, wow, you know, like I'm really tired, exhausted, I don't feel like going out to do this right now, I don't want to go and do this interview, I don't want to go and, you know, it's cold. Imagine what the animals are going through, and it puts my feelings, I put my emotions aside, and I go, wow, like, that is so powerful. That's helped me a lot, and it might help you as well. I highly recommend having that perspective, taking the light off yourself for a sec, putting it on the victims, and then going from there. Now, being educated. How can being educated help with dealing with the fear of doing activism? Well, if you know heaps about this topic, you're not afraid to get in a debate with them, so you get confidence, okay? Confidence is a very, you know, people can read it. When you're in a conversation with someone, you're confident about your answers, boom, quick. They go, wow, it's very persuasive. And it helps you with your nerves. I can get in a debate with almost anyone about this, you know, as long as they're not setting me up or something like that, or some ridiculous topic that they were trying to get me on the TV to talk about. I'm careful about the topics that they try to set me up with, they're grey areas. But otherwise, I'll debate nearly anyone in any scenario about this topic because I'm just confident that there's no way to refute the ethical argument here. Also, you might not do people very well, which is fine. Some people just can't, they've got social anxiety, a lot of it, okay, and they just don't want to associate with anyone, but they want to be an activist for the animals. Totally fine. You can remain 100% anonymous as an activist and be an amazing activist. I'll give you the most powerful example on earth of this. I don't know if you know of anything more powerful than this example. Anyone know the page Best Video You'll Ever See? They changed their name recently, Life-Changing Videos. Got 7 million followers on Facebook, okay? You know, partly responsible for Gary Yourofsky's speech going viral, James Aspey's parts of his speech going viral on their page. Videos get millions and millions and millions of views on that page. I don't know how many millions of views it's like collectively on that page, probably 1 billion or something. But Earthling Ed's speech, an excerpt of his speech, got 21 million views. This vegan has more of a reach than any other vegan on earth. Responsible for persuading, planting more seeds, probably turning more people vegan than anyone else in history. Okay, more than Gary, way more, just mathematically. Anyone know who this individual is? Okay, they're anonymous. So that's the power of remaining anonymous as an activist. You can still help animals. Also, people who do things in the background. Now, I made a video recently about my partner Laura. She never really asked for any credit, okay? She's always in the background though, helping, dealing with a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. I mean, she takes on a lot of my stress. Organising, all these things, filming. She filmed 6 months of my work, okay? She's only little, holding this camera in the freezing cold, okay? Never complained. Done a lot, really helped support me, made me a stronger activist when things got really hard. Okay, mostly anonymous. She never really wants to be on camera or take photos, or that's why you probably don't see her very often. You can do that type of thing in the background. Never have to show your face or talk to anyone. You can do it all from. I get people helping me from all across the world, and they're anonymous. Okay, and donors as well, anonymous donors, which is amazing. Also, there are forms of activism that actually require you to be anonymous. There's a film called Dominion. Okay, that's about 7 years in the making, obtaining that footage. They were required not to show their face. If you're doing anything like that, it's a requirement, and it probably fits into your personality if you're too much fear with just doing human beings, which is fine. Also, this is probably the number one fear of humans, like public speaking and like people, focusing on you like that. Dealing with criticism. Okay, this is a big one. How do I help myself deal with criticism? Because I get it a lot. Trust me, and the more you start getting out there, the more you're going to get it. There's only one way to avoid being criticised. Say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. Okay, you're not going to get much done for the animals like that. I get criticised by non-vegans, by vegans, and by other activists. Luckily, I'm not doing it for any of them. No offence, love you guys, but do this for who? Exactly, the animals. Their criticism is the only criticism that really should matter. Okay? Now imagine this scenario, like you're on the way to a slaughterhouse to be butchered and you're terrified and you're covered in your own feces. This is exactly what they go through. Okay, you've been a slave your whole life. There's a group of people out there trying their best to save you. Through all adversity, they're copying it from every angle. It's not a popular view, and they're going up against the world, basically, to try to save you. Now, one of them one day lashes out and is a bit aggressive, and maybe their wording wasn't good, they insulted someone, and the rest of their group are criticising this individual. What would you say if you're in that truck and they were trying their best with all their heart to help you? Would you be like, oh, you failed, nice try, don't even try next time? No, you'd be like, thank you. Seriously, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, imagine what they, like, and this is what, like, I need to hear something. Because sometimes you can be your own worst critic, and, like, there's been times when, like, the vegan movement have, had a real big go at me, like, especially, probably one of the biggest radio interviews I've ever had. 7 million listeners. Apparently the guy was a big deal. I didn't actually know. I was a foreigner to the UK, Jeremy Vine's show. I went on and I was really fired up, and I was like, I'm going to do the animals justice in this interview. I've had enough, and they're going to really feel this. Like, I didn't go on this radio show to promote myself. Okay, I wasn't like, follow me on Instagram. Hey, no. I was talking about gas chambers, the dairy industry, animals being stabbed and murdered, and how the public are contributing to that. Not very popular view. Now, when I arrived, he had a ham sandwich on the table, and before we started the interview, he made a point of pointing it out and waving it in my face. And then he went on to say, when he went on air, so apparently there's an association with vegan diets and making you angry. Why are vegans so angry? Are you angry today, Joey? So he poked a bit of fun. And, I went on to talk about the animal that was gas chambered so that he could have his sandwich. And that's how the energy of the conversation started. And then he put me on to the truck driver for the animals, and I was already razzed up. And it probably wasn't my best work. I mean, I wasn't very James Aspey, more in the Gary region. But my heart was in the right place. And after that interview, I felt like, okay, that went well, but about 35% of the comments on my pages were from vegans going, you really messed that up, you made us look bad, no one's going to come to an aggressive party, and, you really failed the animals there. And I was just like, that hurt me a lot, because I was, midway through this big tour, taking on a lot, and I was tired and stressed and really, trying my best, and, you're exposing yourself to so many, you feel so criticised, feel so exposed. And it hurt me a lot, and I was like, maybe they're right. Maybe I did fail the animals. Laura was like, no, that was awesome. Keep going like that. But I'll tell you a little something about that. As a result of my conduct in that interview, the next day went viral in the newspapers. Jeremy Vine, a militant vegan activist, criticises Jeremy Vine's ham sandwich, and they went on to talk about gas chambers in the UK, okay, which gave the animals a voice there. And then, as a result of the viral newspapers articles, I was asked to come on TV and debate 2 dairy farmers, okay, and that was then the next day I went viral again in the newspapers, and then the paparazzi over there started doing a bit of research on me, found out about my past, and thought, oh, well, this will be a good poster child to smear campaign, and then they started making all of this noise, and sent so many people to my channel. And what happens when people go to my channel? Do they get a watered down health message? No, they get a strong, ethical, vegan message, okay? And this kind of helped propel the ethical vegan message into the forefront of the mainstream media where it wasn't really happening before, okay? People started to get the real message. And so the thing about criticism is you're always going to get it. If your heart's in the right place, keep going, but take on constructive criticism, but all the rest, you know, just if your heart's in the right place, that's the only thing that matters. Now, is it okay to have some nerves? Of course it is. I'll tell you an example of when I had nerves. My 3rd interview video was about the dairy industry. I was talking about the sexual abuse. The questions were very controversial. I probably wouldn't ask them in the same way again, not these days. But I was going to the city and I was learning to reintegrate into society because I'd just been pulled myself out of gang life and, you know, drugs and alcohol. Usually I socialise with alcohol. Sober, I had anxiety, I was in the city, they were controversial questions, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to turn back. I went to turn back and I was like, wait a second, who are you doing this for? The penny dropped, and I was like, am I doing this for me? Or am I doing this for those dairy cows who have their children taken off them their whole life and be murdered? Perspective. So I went and did it anyway. Which brings me to my thoughts on courage. Courage isn't something you are born with. Courage is something you build and you work on. It comes from gradually stepping outside of your comfort zone and speaking up. Now, you might have a really small comfort zone, okay? You might not even step out the house. That's fine. You can still take a little step outside of that each day. My comfort zone's a little bit bigger, so I can still step outside of that. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And it's a liberating feeling to do that. If I let fear run my life, I would have turned back at those dairy interviews and never looked back, okay? And I never would have got where I am today with spreading the message. Now, the animals need you now, not when you develop confidence. So we need you to start pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. Does this mean I want you to throw yourself straight in the deep end and do something so far outside your comfort? No. Gradually, each and every day, do something that makes you a little bit like, oh, you might not have done any vegan outreach before. Maybe this is your first opportunity. You might not have gone to Bear Witness before. Maybe you go to one save, you don't go up to the truck yet. The next save, you move a little bit closer, and boom, then you take some photos and show it to your mum and try to turn her vegan. Whatever it might be, gradually, gradually. Okay, now this is the most important part of the speech for me, and people try to change my mind on this. I can make vegans especially feel a bit uncomfortable with this, but it's okay. Discomfort is good because, like I said, it helps you change and evolve. Why I believe it is a moral obligation when you find out about what's happening to animals to be an activist in some way. Now remember what I said about activism. You don't have to stand out in the streets yelling at people, throwing fake blood on people, or even be in the Save movement or AV. It's about being proactive in the vegan movement, persuading people to change in some way, advocating. Veganism is where you realize that you've been causing an immense amount of harm to others with your actions, okay? And you stop. It's a non-action. It's a neutral position, veganism. If you are neutral in times of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor. Let me give you an example. You're walking down the street and you see someone abusing their spouse, okay? Domestic violence, really brutal. Abusing a dog, kicking them, okay? Burning a cigarette on their face, something horrible like that. About to kidnap a small child. You witnessed these atrocities and you didn't say nothing. Do nothing. What would society say to you? Could have done something. You don't have to get yourself hurt, but you could have screamed out, thrown something, called someone, called the police, do something. Why is it any different for farmed animals? It shouldn't be. If it were you in the animal's position, like I was talking about on the back of that truck, would you want someone to help you? Would you want me getting in an uncomfortable interview on radio with 7 million people? Would you want yourself on Vegan Outreach talking to someone, persuading them to change? Of course you would. Of course you would. Animals would save themselves if they could, but they can't. They are defenseless, helpless beings. The only time a dairy cow exhibits anything that looks like aggression is when they're having their calf stolen from them. Okay, and after the third time, they stop fighting. Maternal trauma, they just go numb, they stop fighting. They need us. Okay? If vegans don't speak up, who's going to? And where is their obligation to? Because they don't know what you know. If you don't know of a small child being kidnapped, where is your obligation to speak up? We know, and there's a responsibility, okay? That's what we have. There comes a time when silence is betrayal. Martin Luther King quote, very relevant. If you remain silent when you have the perfect opportunity to speak up about this, you've essentially betrayed the animals in the slaughterhouse. Now, am I asking you to get in some big argument in some really bad situation? No, but you can always do something, even if it means just leaving a card, okay? Really non-confrontational. There's always a strategic, tactful way of speaking up. Just be creative about it. Now, when I talk about this, some people feel like, oh, you're putting a lot of pressure on me, Joey. You put me under a lot of pressure. I used to put myself under so much pressure when I started to advocate. I felt that it was my obligation to turn everyone 100% vegan in that first conversation, or I was a bad activist. It is not your job to turn everyone 100% vegan in that one conversation, although that's the ideal situation, but it's too high an expectation. Your job is to plant seeds.
Like backwards.
Okay.
Recoil.
Let me tell you about the 100-point system. This concept was coined by my friend Omri Paz. Heads an organization in Israel called Vegan Friendly. Okay. Israel is one of the most vegan countries on earth per capita. Okay. There's a few reasons for that. Partly because of the work of Vegan Friendly, partly because Tal Gilboa, animal rights activist, One Big Brother, went viral over there. And Gary Yourofsky did his 2 tours over there. His speech went viral over there. And amazing activist from Best Video You'll Ever See is also located in Israel. Hello, Papa.
Just what I need.
Let me tell you what the 100-point system is, basically. You have a blank canvas. They walk up to the screens. Oh, no, not the screens yet, but they're just walking down the street, okay? Blank canvas, didn't know anything about veganism before until someone walked past them with a t-shirt on that says, male chicks are macerated in the egg industry, okay, on the first day of life, and they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. 15 points, they're on their way, they've just gotten started, okay? The next day, their friend invites them to a restaurant, and it's a non-vegan restaurant. They have vegan options there. Their friend orders the vegan burger. They go, ooh, I might have a try. Taste the vegan burger, realize it tastes delicious, okay? And they go, wow, vegans don't just eat carrots and lettuce. That's amazing. 35 points. They're up to 50 points, essentially. A few weeks later, they're scrolling through Facebook. They see something about the dairy industry. Bobby calves being killed with blunt force trauma on their first day of life and chucked in a bin. That really hits them a lot because the bobby calf reminds them of their dog, and that's another 20 points. Okay, a few months go past, they're walking down the street, and there's the screens. They walk up to the screens of Anonymous for the Voiceless, and they see pigs struggling for their life inside of a gas chamber. That's really hectic for them. That's another 15 points. So they're up to 85 points, essentially. You walk up to them, and you say, hello, how are you? Did you realize that by purchasing these products, you put these industries into business? The blood is on the hands of the consumer, and we're asking you to make a moral choice and be vegan. And they go, you know what? Is there any resource for me to sign up to some type of challenge? And you go, well, as a matter of fact, here you go. So you pull it out your fanny pack and you give it to them. And that's the last 15 points that they needed, basically. Then they're up to 100 points and they go vegan. You might think, I'm an amazing activist. I'll turn them vegan in that first conversation. But more often than not, they've heard this message somewhere else before. Okay? Now, you might be that 10 points to get them started, or the last 15 points to finish them off. But what are you if you remain silent?
90% reduced.
Missed
Heavy
opportunity.
damage is active.
Okay, so don't put too much
Also,
pressure on yourself. Think of it
explosive.
as a point system, and you're walking down the street and you're just dropping 5 points here, 20 points here. There's someone at the fridge over there in the shop, and they're buying some milk, and you give them documentary, Dairy is Scary to watch, and you're like, 20 points, swish. And then you move on throughout your day. Some people can only take on a certain amount of points at a time. You just can't force too much on people too much. You've got your mum in the corner, you're making her watch Earthlings Cowspiracy and What the Health in one day, and she has to go vegan or she can't leave the house. Think of it as a point system. This really helped me when Omri told me about this. Now, the longer you're vegan, the longer you're an activist, okay? Or it might just happen with short-term vegans. The suffering of the animals is getting a lot for them. Can be really hard, and you can start to lose hope. You might feel like your efforts are not enough. You bear witness all the time. You're sharing videos of animals at the front of slaughterhouses. The trucks keep rolling in week after week after week, year after year. Start to lose hope. Now, I don't actually lose hope, okay? Because what I do is I focus on the exponential growth of the movement. Now, I understand what's going on with animals. I bear witness and I see their struggle, but I also focus on the evidence. Now, if people don't think that vegan activism is working, they're denying reality, okay? They are denying reality. Let's just talk about marches alone, vegan marches. If you haven't been to a really big vegan march, I highly recommend you do it. It's a very exhilarating feeling. First big one I went to was in the UK 2 years ago. 5,000 people came. We were marching through the streets screaming for animal liberation. It was amazing. A vegan march, not one for dolphins or dogs. It was for all animals. Amazing feeling. We shut down the streets of London. And then 2 weeks later, we went to the biggest animal rights march in history in Israel for 25 to 30,000 people. She looked amazing from the sky. It was huge. This wasn't happening 5 years ago. This year in the UK, doubled. It was 10,000 people this time. It was amazing, really amazing. Also, there are more vegan products on the shelves. Big fast food chains putting on vegan options. Now, big companies putting on vegan options. Do they care about animals? Vegan companies care about animals? They're not vegan companies, they're just corporations. They care about animals? Of course they don't care about animals. What do they care about? They care about money, okay? Why are they putting on vegan products? Because there's more vegans. Why are there more vegans? Because activism is working, okay? So don't lose hope, focus on that. Now, 2 years ago, 5,000 vegans marched through London, and then there was this stat that came out, and there was like, there's 500,000 people who identify as being vegan in the UK. And I was like, 500,000? There's like 50 or 60 million people in the UK. And I was like, 500,000, that's like 1%. And then I was like, 5,000 of us marched in the UK, that's like 1% of the 1%. And I was like, that's not very many. But then I thought about it, I was like, still kicking massive goals though. You should see the UK now. There's vegan options everywhere. It's huge. They've actually changed the number of vegans there. It's a lot higher now. But still kicking massive goals. And that just goes to show that even a tiny pinprick of light can brighten a room full of darkness. That's how powerful the truth is. People say, I've got the truth. Every movement has got the truth. Every religion's got the truth. No. You are paying for animals to be stabbed. Here is a slaughterhouse, okay? That type of truth, reality, we have that. It's very powerful. Spread it. I want to talk to you about something that really I don't take my own advice on, and it's avoiding burnout. Okay? How do we avoid burnout? You don't do a 3-week tour with 50 events and fly to 14 countries. That's a quick way to burn out. Get sick and, it's been crazy. But I'm doing it for 3 weeks. It's only a short-term thing. I wouldn't do this long-term. But my number one tip for that would be rewarding activism. Incorporate rewarding activism, and that would be, for me, outreach. Okay, watching people change in real time. There's nothing more fulfilling than that. It really isn't. You have to be doing something fulfilling in your advocacy. Otherwise, it's all output and no getting anything back. It's all animals suffering. It's all, I'm so helpless out the front of this slaughterhouse, I can't rescue any of them. It's all of that. But you need to have something fulfilling where you're giving back. Also, this is the first tour I've incorporated exercise and meditation. Now, I meditate as a requirement. I'm not James Aspey with it. I've got a little app and it tells me when to meditate for 10 minutes every single day and he talks me through it. But I do it because I've figured out that I have PTSD from my gang days and all the violence that I was participated in and witnessed and drug use. So I do it, and it also helps with my stress levels while touring and going through everything as well. But whatever it is for you, don't be afraid to have a little bit of a break, to change up your advocacy as well, to go from, whatever it might be, focusing on something really negative to maybe something a little bit more light and positive. Switch it up a bit. Give back to yourself, go out and get some nature. Don't be afraid to have a break while you're having a break. Someone else is kicking goals for the animals as well. So these little tips for avoiding burnout, but like I said, I just go as hard as I can, then I go, I better chill out a bit, and then I just edit videos and cop all the criticism online, and then I go back out to do other stuff. So look, I'm not the perfect example of avoiding burnout, but that's the sort of best tips I can offer you. Meditation, exercise, rewarding activism is the number one, and don't be afraid to have a break. Now, when I was in the UK and everything went viral on the internet and media, I heard this it was like a consistent message coming from animal agriculture and the dairy industry and the meat industry that we're not really too afraid of those vegans. What they're doing isn't working. Dairy sales haven't decreased when they had. Don't ever let the opposition tell you what your movement is. They'd love to demoralize us. They'd love to. They would love to. Now, for this to manifest, a vegan world, we all have to collectively believe it is possible. Okay? We called the UK tour the Vegan Prophecy Tour. And people were like, there's religious connotations. No. Prophecy just means going to happen. Okay? Going to happen. We 100% believe that a vegan world has already happened. We just haven't caught up to it yet. Okay? And that's what we all need to believe. If you're putting energy into it not manifesting, what's going to happen? Everything is born out of a belief. Okay? A belief that is possible. Okay? And we should have an unwavering belief in this. I want to talk briefly about infighting because guess what? You're not special. It happens everywhere in the movement. People not getting along. Okay, people criticizing each other's activism. My activism better. I don't like that person, this, that. All that happens everywhere. Now, what I've learned is that we shouldn't be focusing our energy and attention on that. The only victims of infighting are the animals. Okay, because we're putting much needed energy into infighting, which contributes to burnout, people losing, their motivation. Now, what I do is when I have these pages making up, we've got pages dedicated to, making up stuff and, just sledging us. When it gets back to me, I don't focus on it anymore, but when it does get back to me, I just sit there making a very big, long, drawn-out post about the dairy industry, okay? And that's how I channel the energy. Now, we should be focusing on what unites us, what we have in common, which is what we are fighting for. Okay? Now, if you don't get along with someone, that's fine. It's a very big movement. The reason there's infighting is an indicator that the movement is going very fast, very big. Okay? So not everyone's going to get along. It's impossible. I wouldn't expect everyone to. Okay? You don't have to go have a tea party with someone you don't like. But what I like to do is I'll go, okay, I don't like that person's character. Something they did, their personality, it's just not me. Can't be around this person. But I really appreciate that post they put up about, the slaughterhouses, speaking up for pigs. That's great, and the animals have a very powerful and fierce advocate for them, and I'm grateful for that. And it helps change your perspective on them, and you make it more about the animals, okay, and what we're fighting for. The biggest threat to any movement is the movement itself. Okay, and animal agriculture would love to hear that we're all bickering and backering and fighting within each other and not focusing on fighting the real enemy. Which brings me to my last, final point. We're all in this together. Okay, solidarity. And I want to tell you a story about where I felt this the most. I went to Bali for the Bali Vegan Festival, and I wanted to do something more in Bali for animals than attend the vegan festival. So I was going to do a vigil for the animals, Bali's first vigil, so I was thinking, where's the slaughterhouses? I was asking, where's the slaughterhouses? Couldn't really do a vigil there because trucks just aren't rolling in. These slaughterhouses are a bit smaller. In my heart, I decided I want to bear witness on the kill floor. I want to see what it's actually like for these animals. I want to tell their story from the kill floor. Not a requirement. If anything, I would steer people away from doing this. This can cause serious trauma. So not a requirement as an activist at all. Something I was drawn to do. Now, I went in under the guise of being from Australia, involved with animal agriculture myself, a student. Cows were my favourite animal. I really wanted to see what happened in there. I had a translator. We went in, I covered my vegan tattoo. We did a tour, and we said, wow, that's amazing. Took photos, footage. And then we said, when's the kill floor start? And they said, later on tonight. So we said, are we allowed to come back? They said, yes. We came back. Man came out with a big knife in his hand, t-shirt off, and he was like, what are you doing here? We said, I was actually quite, worried. We said we had permission to be there, and he said, okay, come in. We went in. Straight away, as soon as we walked in, there was a cow who had a rope through her nose, beautiful animal, puppy dog eyes, dragged onto a machine. The machine was holding her down, her throat was exposed. And straight away, he dragged the knife across her throat and blood sprayed straight past me. When an animal has their throat slashed open and they're fully conscious, they try to struggle for their breath. So they're breathing in and blood is going into their esophagus, into their lungs, and they vomit out of that same hole. Very disturbing thing to watch, legs flailing around. Took each of those animals, I watched 4 animals be decapitated that night in front of me, and took them each about 10 minutes to die. Really, really horrible. Now, the hardest part about that for me was witnessing what was happening to them and not being able to physically intervene. The best thing I could do is tell their story through the camera. Obviously, in that moment, I knew it was about the animal. I took, it off of me and put the focus on the animal, and I was like, oh my God, how terrible this all is. Made a video, put it up on my YouTube channel. I edited out most of the gore, so the animals having their throat slashed open, all of that's edited out. It's still on my channel called Vegan Witnesses Insane Halal Slaughter. Now, when I put the video up though, in the comment section, a lot of the community saw something I didn't see. And they said, Joey, you've been working pretty hard lately, maybe you should have a little bit of a break. PTSD can kick in later on. You don't know how much this has affected you till afterwards. Do you want to talk about what you've seen? Inboxes, messages of support, people asking me if they want to have a phone chat. Now, I felt like I was okay. I've got a thick skin, I've been through quite a violent past, and I felt like I dealt with it okay. They didn't know that though. I had support there if I needed it. And that's what we all should be for each other. Support if we need it. Okay? Now, the person next to you might be doing it a little bit harder than you. They might have a softer skin than you. They might not be as experienced as you. And you just asking them if they are okay could be the difference between them leaving or staying in the movement. Okay? So, you might have gone through the family thing, being ostracized from your family. That's a big one for people, and someone else might be going through that and not know what to do. And your experience and your guidance and support could really help that individual. So, I think we should incorporate the support network just into our activism fundamentally, and it will create a stronger movement of stronger individuals if we all feel like we have been supported. I get amazing support from so many people. I also get a lot of the criticism, but it's all drowned out by the support, and it's amazing. I always finish my workshops with this quote, and I think I always will. It's amazing. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who stand by and watch. So let's get out there and do something. Thank you so much. Thank you.
What do you do?
Thank you.
almost every day. I wish I could just turn away, but I can't. I said, that's exactly how I am. I can't ignore it. I can't ignore. Because it's happening to them, it's happening to me.
Okay, so here we are. This is another episode of the Carb Strong Cast. I'm new to podcasting, but it's a real honour to have Fiona Oakes in with us today.
Hi, honoured to
Hello.
be here.
You just took us on a lovely tour of one of your locations here for your animal sanctuary.
Yep.
It's grown a lot. Now, you're a world record holding vegan runner,
Yep.
but you don't really consider yourself that much of a runner.
No, I don't consider myself anything of a runner, to be honest with you. I just started running purely to promote veganism.
Well, and we look around in the room and there's just medal after medal, and there's right behind me there's this hanger full of medals and trophies everywhere. You've really got an amazing sort of, well, what would you call it? A portfolio full of marathons and wins and races and
Yeah, I've tried to mix it up for the animals. I just run to promote veganism,
Wow.
and I only started running because I run the sanctuary. I founded it 26 years ago, and a couple of years after we started it, I thought, animals are just coming thick and fast. They still are.
Yeah.
We need to address the cause of why they're coming in.
Yep.
And I need to promote veganism because I've been vegan for now I've been vegan for 47 years. I went vegan when I was 6.
Wow.
So
How?
Everyone at
I
zero.
think I went self-inspired vegetarian at 3 years old, just rejection of meat.
Intuitively.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a case of, I just started to ask my mum, well, what's the deal? Why do we take? And my mum was very honest, and I'm blessed that she was very honest. And I will say at the time, what I find very inspiring about people like yourself is you have such amazing reach and a role model for younger people. And we were fortunate back in the 1970s that my mum had a role model. Mum was a pianist. She was actually taught by a vegan lady who was a piano teacher. And they kept in touch after my mum left school. And she was able to articulate to my mum, in adult terms, what I was going through as a child. It wasn't difficult. And my mum, when I was in hospital with my knee surgeries, my mum was accused of child abuse.
Wow.
For allowing me to be vegan. Veganism was aligned to an eating disorder.
That's crazy.
And my mum stuck her heels in, and it was not difficult. My dad was on strike as a minor. We got no family money coming into the house apart from my mum's wage. But she stuck her heels in and said, it is cruel to lie to your child, not to tell them the truth.
Wow.
And yeah, so I've always had my mum's backing, and I think that's very, very important. If you can influence or support a person in any way, shape or form, it's important that you do that, because I've always had my mum as my rock. But yeah, I only started running to promote veganism. I've been vegan at that time for about 30 years.
Nice.
And I wanted to get out there, and the animals need to stop coming into a sanctuary. That's what we need to. Can't keep hitting at the symptoms. We've got to get at the cause.
That's it.
So there was no social media. This was back in the early noughties. I've always been sporty. Even though I've got my knee injury, I was told that I would never walk properly, let alone run again after the surgeries.
Wait a second. You had knee surgeries. You were told you were never going to run again?
Yeah, I was very sporty as a teenager, and I developed this growth condition, and my kneecap crumbled. I had to have it removed, and I was told that it would mean that the running was out. You wouldn't walk properly, and indeed I don't. When you look at me run, I limp. Everybody knows, I knew it was you. I saw you in the distance. You were limping. Oh, thank you. And so I took to cycling, and I used to do a lot of competitive bike racing because that's single motion,
Yep.
no impact. We got the sanctuary. I didn't have the time or the money for cycling because you've got to be on a bike 4 hours a day, really heavily training. Didn't have the time for that. But I wanted to do something, and the only sport, especially women's sport, that was getting any attention, marathon running because of Paula Radcliffe. And it was being billed as this really tough endurance event. You've got to be superhuman to do a marathon. And I thought, well, okay, if I could just compete in and complete a marathon, it proves that you can do anything as a vegan.
Yeah.
Simple equation.
Wow.
Better get good at marathon running. And it wasn't a plan to, go and break world records or anything like that. It just kind of grew organically, and I kind of wanted to do more and do more and do more. So I started playing road running, did what I could with the road running. I got a personal best of 2:38 and top 20s in London, Great North Run, won the main start. And then I kind of mix it up. Do I go off and win smaller marathons? Do I look at these extreme races just for the animals, just to prove a point? You can do this as a vegan.
Amazing. seems you're very driven, and after you complete something like a really tough marathon, it's like afterwards you're still looking for more. What else can you do to sort of put this message forward?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't, if I thought that I'd reached the pinnacle of what I could do, I'd back away and just concentrate on something else productive. It's all for the animals. So if you've run fast marathons, if you've run hot marathons, if you've run a marathon at the highest altitude ever, what else can you do to show that a vegan can do anything and actually do it better than most?
It's really crazy to me that you're speaking like I did this marathon, but it's a lot tougher in practice than it is just, how you're explaining it. Like, what are the struggles of running these tough races?
Yeah, I mean, to explain, if people are interested in the kind of logistics behind it, to run a fast marathon on the road, to get down sub 3, sub 250, sub 240 as a woman is fast. It's like getting Olympic qualifying times.
Wow.
The training is very rigid. You can't miss a session. You're running 9 times a week. You're doing speed work. You're doing hill work. Everything. You don't even define a day by, it's Tuesday. You think, you wake up and you think, everything aches. And it's 10 800-metre pushes at lunchtime and an evening run. It's hard. It's really, really brutally hard. You're looking for about 100, 110 miles a week every week.
Just training?
Training.
Wow.
You're looking for a long run on a Sunday of over distance. You could probably go in 28 miles. The whole idea of that is getting your body to accept the fact of punishment. In a marathon, running at pace, you will hurt so much you won't even dare think what's hurting next. So you've got to have been there day in, day out, and your mind's not, it's screaming at you, stop doing this to me, stop doing. But it's always screaming, stop doing. Yeah. It's screaming on a Tuesday when you're doing 10 800 metres. It's screaming every day. So for me, it was always throughout running 110 mile a week in training, nailing every session to get that to where you could be on race day. And that's a testament to the veganism, because you don't just magic these times up. No. It's about recovering and being able to keep doing it year in, year out. An interesting fact is I have never, in an almost 20-year running career, had a running injury. I've had injuries that have stopped me from running, like when I went to MDS in 2012, I went with 2 broken toes.
Okay.
That was caused by a horse standing on them. But I've never injured myself or had a conventional running injury.
It seemed like you were injured before you started your running.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got this limp-along situation going on where I was told that I would never run. And, I don't run conventionally. In fact, when Keegan, I never look at myself doing anything because it's just too horrendous to even contemplate. But Keegan kept sending these bits of film footage through of the film, and I wouldn't look, and I might just catch a glimpse here and there. And then I went out to LA for the film premiere, and I was going to sit at the back of the cinema and, kind of hide. And Rich Roll said, you must come down the front and watch it. And I said, Christ, I've not seen it yet. And he said, you must be very proud of it. I said, I haven't watched it yet. Who wants to watch yourself on a giant screen? And I thought, okay, calm down, Fiona. You're in the Sahara Desert. You've got all the cool kit on. You've got to look this. And then all of a sudden, I saw this Quasimodo type figure limping out the desert, and I thought, no, you don't even look good in the desert, Fiona. And I do kind of limp quite heavily, even if you look at my shoes. Keegan noticed it. One shoe's worn down, the other shoe's not. But it's mind over matter. It's the reason you're out there. This is the only thing I can do to help the animals.
So let's just give the listeners who don't know what film you're talking about, you are in a film called Running for Good.
Yeah.
A documentary about your life story.
Yeah.
And Keegan Kuhn, he's one of the directors, producers of Cowspiracy and What the Hell.
Yeah.
And he worked with you creating this film. I watched the film, I think, 2 nights ago. Yeah. Very inspired by it. Now, one of the things that really blew my mind is that the other day I decided to run a marathon without training just to see if I could do it, basically, and to prove the diet and things like that. And I had a sore knee, a knee problem. It sort of stopped me from running about 33 kilometres in. Then after watching your film, what blew my mind is that you don't have a kneecap. You're missing a kneecap, and you still run these ultras. Yeah. How?
I don't know. I mean, it hurts, but I don't encourage people to go out and hurt themselves physically so they're not going to be able to walk again and end up in A&E. Mine hurts when I'm running. I've learned to manage it. I know it'll probably stop hurting when I stop running. Yeah. But there's no way I'm going to stop running until I get to the finish line. Yeah. Nothing. Mind over matter. It is mind over matter. the pounding of road marathons, you're in the same position for 2 hours and 40 minutes or whatever you're out there. That's kind of hard. At 20 miles, a marathon starts at 20 miles. And people used to say, and I used to say, no, it doesn't. It starts at mile 1. It really does. That's when the pain, the fatigue really gets in. It's the way you manage it. And I think I manage it better than most because I'm out there for a different reason than a selfish reason. I want to run a certain time or I want to win a race. I want to do something which I think can impact on those that I love more than myself. And I actually feel it's a lot easier to do something for another creature or being than it is to do it for yourself. I really do feel that. So for me, I can really hand it out to myself, but can't even contemplate what it'd be like to harm another living creature. But when it comes to me, if that's the one thing I can do to help them, then we'll get out and do it.
So it's like when you feel like giving up, you look outside of yourself and realise what you're doing it for, who you're doing it for, and it drives you, and you sort of sacrifice. So it's like a sacrifice. Well, what are they going through? It gives you this perspective in that moment, and that's what drives you forward.
Whatever you're hurting can't be a fraction of what they're hurting, and at the end of the day, you can stop.
Yeah.
They can't open that cage door.
No.
They can't be free. I mean, the terror and the fear of, it's just incomprehensible. And you know what drives me? And it's probably a little bit unpolitically correct, anger.
Wow.
Anger and frustration is what I run.
Wow.
Sometimes I'm out there on fumes. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
But I'm so angry. And have I really got to do this in the 20th century, 21st century now? To prove that veganism is the way forward? Have I got to do this to myself? Have I got to keep doing this to myself? Obviously I have for the time being. And that's what, it's the injustice.
Yeah. And it seems to me, having a sanctuary for so long, you're on the front lines. You're directly involved with the victims of this, animal agriculture, this injustice. So I guess you've suffered a lot of upsets and losing animals, and tell us about that struggle.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really hard. And sometimes people say it must be easy for you because you actually care for the animals. So you actually firsthand see those that are benefiting from the efforts that you're putting in. But on the other side, you go out and you feed your animals and you see them happy.
Yeah.
But they're not the animals that look back at you.
No.
The ones in the crates look back at you and you think, but for a twist of fate, this little cow or this little sheep or this little pig could be in a crate.
Yeah.
It's a real life. They were going that way. They were heading that direction down the slaughterhouse. It even hurts more to think, and I never think about the ones that you can rescue and physically help. Obviously I do, because I look after them every day, but you're always one step ahead and thinking about those that you can't physically touch. You want to do something for them, just in the hope that one person might just, the light bulb might go on. And that's what drives me on. I really don't keep going out there and beasting myself because I enjoy it.
So instead of feeling helpless and powerless, you try to work out what is in your control, what is in your power, what can you do, and then you put yourself through that to sort of prove this point and to drive this message home. You must really surprise a lot of people out there on these races in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think over the years, we started Vegan Runners back in 2004 purely because I was qualifying for elite starts in major world marathons, and the equation was, you're going to go onto the start line and you're going to line up next to the best marathon runners in the world.
Yeah.
As an emblem. You're going to have on your jersey, people are going to see it on the TV, they're going to see it around the world. How about having the word vegan on you? And that's when we affiliated Vegan Runners 15 years ago, purely for the idea that running through the streets of London with a billboard promoting veganism. You can like it, you can hate it, but you can't ignore it, because I'm there out the front of the race. When people see you going on to these starts, you are treated like royalty. You're shipped in by boss people and wanting Haile Gebrselassie autograph, and you're walking there next to them. I'm equal to these people. 50,000 runners back there are on the mass start. I'm up the front in the elite enclosure with the best in the world. That's got to make some people, you can't ignore that fact. And that's basically why we started. Everything I've done has just been in some way, subversive way, creative way, to promote what I believe, because it's not been that easy. People have not wanted, very hard to promote a message that people do not want to hear. They didn't want to know about it.
Especially in the days before social media. I mean, you'd have to be, how can I do this? What can I do to shake the...
The mainstream media weren't going to help you in any way. And I kind of, when I realised the kind of time you got to dedicate to being good, I kind of thought, is it worth it? Because it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, my sister had a child, and I've got a niece. I couldn't go to the christening because I was training. I can't, 3 weeks running up to a marathon when you've trained and you're tapering. Martin used to come home from work and let me know when he was 10 minutes away, and I'd go and live in a caravan because I was worried about him have contracted something at work, like a cold or a cough.
Wow.
And then give me that. So I never saw him for 3 weeks before a race because
You quarantined yourself.
Yeah. Because when you think about it, you can be as fit and conditioned as you like. If you've got a cold, you're not going to run right.
No.
You're not going to run at all. And you set in your store 5 months of your life previous to that race. You've just honed on one Sunday morning in the autumn and the spring when you're going to go and deliver 100% of what you've got in the tank. Every ounce of everything you're going to leave on that road.
Yeah.
And you're going to hopefully come away with the best result you can for the animals. So that you could, it wasn't a formulated plan. I didn't think, I just kept doing it. I thought, right, okay, I've come 8th in the Amsterdam Marathon. That's a big race. I was only beaten by Kenyans and Ethiopians.
Wow.
You're thinking, what can I do next? And I realised that over the years I've been building up this massive CV of things that I've done, but it's purely been done for that one event. Now put it to bed and go off and do something else. I've not really thought about it in any other terms than that.
That seemed like a natural progression for you, and it seems like there's this fire that kept being stoked, and and it doesn't seem like it's gone. It's still there.
It's still there. It's still there massively. It'll be there on Sunday because I'm half marathon. I'm going back to road running because it is kind of difficult for me to get away to do anything else. But yeah, and I think it is an anger. And I will say that some of the results I was getting were big. I was coming in comparable places in the big races like London and Amsterdam or wherever that our best runners like Joe Pavey were getting. And I was kind of thinking, surely this is newsworthy. Have you got this disabled amateur runner and nobody's interested? And I realised that it was kind of, the veganism was preventing people from being interested, like a veganophobia with the press.
Yeah.
They won't mention the fact that you're vegan.
If they even smell that you have an agenda, they steer away from it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they really, really do. And I'm thinking, well, perhaps I'm not good enough. Right, then I'll just go and do a better result in Florence. I'll go and win a marathon. What have I got to do? And that's when, after I'd done loads of quick times and loads of wins, what have I got to do? And somebody then said, do the toughest foot race on the planet. Do Marathon de Sable, that's got to prove the point. Yeah. So you think, okay, I can do that. I'll go off in the desert and I'll do that. And, same as when I did the North Pole Marathon. Can't be a marathon at the North Pole. Jeez, that's got to prove my point, hasn't it? When people are tired, they say, oh, I feel like I've run a marathon. Or if they're cold, they say, like North Pole out there. Put the two together, put a marathon, put a vegan woman out there doing it, put a vegan woman out there winning it, put a vegan woman out there being the fastest ever to do anything like that.
Yeah, the North Pole. Now, wasn't this the last of the 7 marathons that you did across the continent?
It was the first.
It was the first.
Yeah.
Okay, it was the first.
Yeah.
Now, you finished this race, and then, was it, how many hours later to the next person?
It was a lot of hours later to that. People were getting hypothermia and having to stop.
You are
Running
annoying.
through the snow.
You were running through funny terrain. It was like on the Arctic Ocean.
Yeah.
You could hear the ocean underneath you. It was, parts of it were fairly deep snow.
Yeah.
They would, and I kept falling over. And I didn't know I'd be able to do this kind of running because of my knee. My knee is not good. I keep dislocating it. So I kind of thought...
Slippery.
It is slippery. And I just went out there in my old running shoes. I didn't know what to expect, which is probably just as well, because if I had, I'd have been freaked out. Wow. And I think that the guy that organised it wanted a woman to go out there and show that a woman could do it, but he didn't want a woman to go out there and show a woman could do it better than anyone else.
What was your time? It was like 4 hours?
4 hours, something or other, yeah.
Wow.
It didn't take me that long. And
So,
some people were taking 12 hours and stuff.
Just because of the terrain, the cold.
It's cold, it's terrain. I mean, you were coming into, it's 9 laps, and you were coming in and having to have your headgear cut off. It was I think about -40. It was very, very cold.
So you surprised people in that race, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very good at managing my pace. The one thing I know about myself is I know very little. And I realise that, so I want to learn more rather than being a closed book thinking I know it all.
Yeah.
I know nothing. And so for me, I know what pace I can run comfortably. And the key to running in those temperatures, don't slow down. Just run at a pace that you can maintain for 26.2 miles. If you slow down, you will get hypothermia in those conditions. If you don't slow down, you can keep the
Everything
blood
warm
flowing,
and-
keep it warm, and you will be okay. The only thing is that I finished a lot quicker than the race organisers thought. Obviously, they couldn't stand at the finish line and wait for the runners to come through because it was too cold. So I'm running up to the finish line and getting Percy Bear out and coming up to the finish. I think there was no one here. Well, there's no one here. So I went into the warm tent, and they're all having a cup of tea, and the Russians have provided us warm. I said, I'm back. And he was literally like, I'm back, darling, I've been shopping. Oh, you're back? I thought you got another lap to do. No, I've finished. Oh, right. Could you go back out and run up to the finish again so we can film it? At that point, I can feel the hypothermia setting in, because once you stop,
Yeah.
you're not going to get warm again in those
Yeah.
conditions. The tents that they give you to, it's a bizarre experience. You arrive at the North Pole. They land the plane, they turn it around, and they go back. A plane cannot sit on ice out there. It's going to go through it. You know, there's the landing process is the dangerous bit, because you can get like a tsunami under the ice, and it can just you down 13,000 feet of Arctic Ocean. So they sent the plane back for the other runners, and they show you into these appallingly hot tents, and it's like a sauna. So you literally come from like 28 layers that you're wearing to literally stripping off, and you've got a t-shirt on, nothing else. And the idea is that your body simply cannot warm up from those temperatures unless it is literally forced to warm up, and it's hot. And it was just a bizarre experience. But once you do get cold, feet of Arctic Ocean. So they sent the plane back for the other runners, and they show you into these appallingly hot tents, and it's like a sauna. So you literally come from like 28 layers that you're wearing to literally stripping off, and you've got a t-shirt on, nothing else. And the idea is that your body simply cannot warm up from those temperatures unless it is literally forced to warm up, and it's hot. And it was just a bizarre experience. But once you do get cold, that's game over. You're not going to warm up again.
Because your joints as well, and you've got knee problems, like that cold temp, that's dangerous territory, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, at one point I thought I got frostbite in my toe. You're told to let anybody know if they see any white spots. You can tell someone you've got frostbite. I did get a bit of frostbite up my nose, which does flare up occasionally. But I mean, it was a bizarre experience. I've never really thought that much about what I'm doing, so I just like throw myself into it and think, right, okay, I'm going to kick ass for the animals.
Wow.
That's it.
So you didn't overthink it?
No.
And
just
that was
just,
probably,
well,
that
yeah.
helped?
Yeah, it probably
Because
did.
maybe people get inside their own head a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at one point I did feel pretty rubbishy when I was there, to say the least. And I looked up, and there's no 24 hours, it's just daylight all the time. And I thought, Fiona, you're in first place in the North Pole Marathon. You're at the North Pole.
Wow.
Get a grip and dig in. And I was quite proud of what I did out there.
Amazing. That record, does it still stand? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they say that technically no record at the North Pole can stand because it's because it changes the course. The course is never the same because obviously the North Pole changes, and the course is only ever caught as near to the North Pole as the Russians can do it. It's actually a research base. So they drop Russian soldiers in, they set the base up, and then you go as near to the geographic North Pole you can. Afterwards, if there is time, if the weather closes in, they call everybody off the course and get you the hell out of there because you're going to get stranded as we did in Antarctica. We were shipped to the actual North Pole. I was lucky I went in a chopper to the North Pole, the actual North Pole. And when we were going on this rickety old chopper, I was thinking, oh, I hope we've got petrol, because I really don't want to get stuck here. I really don't want to get stuck here. And they grabbed the old North Pole sign in New York that way and whatever. And one of the guys, the Russian guys, kind of went like that to me, and he said, look down there. And there was a polar bear coming out of an ice hole at the North Pole.
Wow.
And he actually said, I think they're trying to tell us that within 20 years, the polar ice cap will no longer be under ice, it'll be underwater. He said, I think that's nearer to 10 years, and that was 2013.
Wow.
You know, we've got a bit of a problem going on with the
Yeah.
climate. I never expected to see a polar bear. I just thought the whole of the Arctic would be thick ice.
Yeah.
Not like that at all. Not
Wow.
like that at all.
It's interesting because you're sort of running with the same principles that will help stop the ice caps from melting with global warming. And
I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a choice that I would think. When we came back from doing the North Pole Marathon, the BBC rang. We want you on the BBC. This is amazing what you've done out there. And then they rang back. I was sitting at my mum's cottage at the time, and the researcher told me we don't want to mention the fact you're vegan on the
Wow.
programme. And, you know, I'm not Beyonce Knowles. I can't just say, oh, I'm not coming then, or it's on my terms, or, you know, my way or the highway. So I kind of went. And I was sitting there live on thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And I did mention the fact of and they said, why did you do the North Pole Marathon? And I think if I'd have kind of gone down the old, oh, I'm just an adrenaline junkie, I just had to do it, you know,
Yeah.
because it's there to be done. And I didn't. I did it to celebrate the Diamond Jubilee of the Vegan Society.
Yeah.
And vegan, get her off, you know. I wouldn't have chosen to go to any of the locations I've gone to if I hadn't kind of been, it was my only option to get the message out there. I'd done tangibly great runs in my own country that should have been reported on for what they were.
Yeah.
But they weren't getting.
No.
So you tend to think, right, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? I have to do more, I have to do more. And it was the North Pole Marathon and what came after it that was kind of, okay, break a world record. I can't do it in my own country. I've got to travel to do it.
Yep.
But is the travel that I'm doing balanced off by the good I might do by doing this?
Yeah.
And somebody said, you know, some anti-vegan reporter about the travel element. I said, I'm a vegan, not a hermit.
No.
You know, you can't, what do they want you to do? Just like go and live in a cave somewhere and keep your veganism to yourself? I was only trying to tackle
The good that you're doing outweighs any of, you know,
of the negativity.
and you've offset any carbon footprint
Yeah,
by
I mean,
lifetime vegan
I
nearly.
run everywhere. Like, I'm quite happy to. I mean, I used to work in London. It was a 40-mile journey each
Yeah.
way. I went on my bike. You know, please, you know.
Yeah.
But they've always got to have some ridiculous, bizarre. Oh, but what about the insect you might have killed by?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, go, yeah. But yeah, and after that, the world records came.
Wow.
So yeah, and that was not an easy challenge.
So just describe the major world record that we see in the film. It's like you did 7 marathons in 7 continents?
Yeah, basically what it was when I came back from the North Pole, a few of the guys, because I'm not into ultra running, I don't really know. All I knew about running was A to B as fast as you can so you can get home and look after the animals. 2 marathons a year, I've got no coach, I've got no physio, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
Just me running, that's all there is. Some of the guys there were a little bit more into these and they said, you know, God, you're amazing at this. You know, you should do this world record. Fastest woman to run a marathon on every continent in days elapsed. So you're in the Antarctic race in November. Just go to every continent and run a marathon and you'll have the world record. And I thought, wow, that's great.
So wait, this was a spare of the moment decision, or was it?
Yeah, I
planned
mean,
out?
I at the time I thought it was great. So I came home and then kind of look at the bank balance and think, no, there's no way I'm going to do that. I put it on a back burner for quite a long time, and then I thought, no, I could get a world record for the animals. That's got to be worth going that extra mile
Yeah.
for. We've got no money. All our money has always, and to this day, goes into the sanctuary for the animals. But my parents had got their little cottage, and they said that they would remortgage it for me to do this if necessary. Unfortunately, they didn't have time to remortgage it, so somebody stepped in and sponsored me. So I thought, excellent, I could just go to Guinness and tell them that I'm doing this, and you know, it'd be great. They'll validate it. Oh God, no, it wasn't going to be that simple. They said you need to take 2 runners with you, and they need to run next to you for each race to make sure that it's you that's running. Because you could enter a race in Australia, and it's not even got to be you that's running it. How do we know it's you that's done it? You know, and I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do? I can't do that. Okay, the plan I came up with was go and win them all, and then
they know.
then they know it's you. So now I'm challenged with going to these every continent every other week or whatever, and having to win these marathons or place in them at the very least to validate it. And I remember it was really bizarre because I got off the plane in Adelaide.
Yes, indeed.
And the guy came, we were looking in the baggage or something like this, and he said, oh, you're looking for your bags? And I said, I haven't got any. Oh, right, okay. You come off the flight there from Dubai.
It's coming to run and go.
Yeah, he said to me, you've basically come to Australia from the UK on a day trip. I said, yeah, in essence, that's what I've done. And I could think, oh, I know what I look like here, drug smuggler or something.
Yeah.
I said, don't worry, I've got a good reason for being here. He said, what is it? I said, I'm running a marathon tomorrow. He went, you're crazy. And it was really difficult. I mean, I'd been in Australia 8 hours, and I've got to get up and run this marathon, place in it, get back on the plane and come home, and let him go to work. And it was tough. It was really tough. We were there and back to Australia, and I came 3rd place in the Adelaide Marathon, and I was gone less than 96 hours.
Wow.
And, you know, just showing the recovery rate of the... I never even got jet lag. I never had jet lag. I've just, like, gone, come back. Okay, I've done it. Next one, please. And it was, like, just a cycle of these races. Going down to Antarctica and did the same as I did in the North Pole and smashed it and won the race.
So you came back after the 7 races with the record.
I came back with 3 world records,
3
actually,
world
because
records.
actually it wasn't just the fastest in time, in days. I was the quickest runner to ever do it because I've got to run these races pretty quickly. So yeah, I came back with 3 world records.
Wow.
Within, the fastest to do it.
Amazing. Now I want to just keep on the race topic. What would you say? I mean, they're probably all hard in different ways, but for you, what was the most challenging race you've been in?
Running quick in a marathon is hard because you literally can't. There's no stopping to adjust anything.
No.
You've got to be in that zone for that amount of time. So the fast ones have always been hard. Marathon de Sable was hard the first time I did it because I had 2 fractured toes. And
What's that?
That's the race across the desert. It's billed as the toughest foot race on the planet. So you've got a week in the Sahara Desert. You're carrying everything you need for that week. Sleeping bag, food, medication, clothes, anything you want.
Self-supported, so-
Self-supported,
Wow.
totally. There's no sanitation, there's no very limited water, no washing facilities, nothing. And every day you arrive home back at camp, you've just got a place to put your sleeping bag. You get up the next day and you do it again.
How long is this race?
It's a week.
And the distance?
It's 250 odd K. They tend to run a similar format of there'll be 30 to 40 K each stage, and then there'll be one double marathon or something like that, or a bit more. Very, very hot though. I think the hottest we've ever had it out there was 55-degree heat.
Wow.
You've got massive sand dunes, you've got climbs, you've got everything being thrown at you. It's really, really brutal. I mean, I've seen people coming home and have to have skin grafts on their feet, their skin's falling off. It's really,
From
really
the sand
tough.
and the sun?
Yeah, you get sand in your shoes, game over. It really is game
Raises
over.
your skin off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it just takes the skin off your feet. I was going out there ready to do it for the first time. Didn't know what to expect, as normal. And Martin's gone to work, and we've got an old horse at the sanctuary. She got cast, she got stuck down in a box, she couldn't get up. I'd got to get her up. Put the ropes around myself and dragged her to her feet, but as she got up, she stepped back and stepped on my foot. So now I've got 2 fractured toes, and I'm going to be the first vegan woman to attempt Marathon de Sable, and I've fractured my toes. What do I do? I thought it's going to be really hard to watch that plane go. I might be able to get around. I didn't know how hard it was. I'd never done it. And so I went out there, and by the long stage, you could see the bone sticking out my little toe. You've got no medication. I've got nothing.
No.
I daren't show it the race doctors. I knew they'd pull me out. So I just had to keep going, and that was brutally difficult. That was appallingly difficult. I went through real hell out there doing that.
Because it's difficult enough without a fractured toe, but just that added something.
Because
to the
in
mix.
a road marathon, if you understand me, you like that. You know where your feet are going to go.
Yeah.
But in these races, your feet are all like all
It's
over the
different.
place, so they're pulling at
Yeah.
this toe all the time.
Soft sand,
Yeah,
heat,
yeah,
wind, so
yeah.
sandstorms.
Oh,
and
sandstorms, tents blown away. I mean, one night the tent just blew down, and after the Berbers had tried to put it up for us about 3 times, and then you just laid there under the tent thinking at least it's doing it. And the tent collapsed on these bodies that are laying underneath it, and it was like, oh, what am I
With the
doing
hot
here?
air, and how do you need double the amount of water running through these
They
things?
don't give you very much water at all. You get, they limit your water to make it doubly hard. If you need more water, you get extra points, you know, like
Deducted.
they'll lose time, yeah. And if you allow yourself to go dehydrated, if you take IV fluids, it's like a 5-hour penalty. They want you to be on the edge. And they want you to learn to manage your
And so
water.
you're saying about the calories intake. You're saying they only allow 2,000 calories?
No, you can take as many as you like,
it's
but
like-
how can you carry them?
Yeah.
If you start getting a bag and you think, oh, that doesn't weigh much and that doesn't weigh much, but you start putting everything in this bag and you think, Jesus, I can't get it down to under 8 kilos. And you put an 8-kilo weight on your back and try to carry it up a sand dune. Or
For
up
a week.
climb for a week. You're in trouble, mate. You really are. So 2,000 calories is kind of one meal, you know, one of these hydrated meals and a few bars, and you've got nothing else. So you're literally losing weight. I mean, probably about 10 kilos in a week you'll lose.
Just lots of fluid and
Yeah, just-
and obviously, well, you're not taking in enough calories, eh?
No, I just don't want. I just can't. No, I'm just not hungry. I just don't want it. The first time I did it, I couldn't keep anything down. It was like painkillers and a few ball sweets. That's all I had the whole week. But I got through it.
Wow.
And I was going to go back and do it again the next year and hit it hard without the broken toes. And then the North Pole race came up, so I did that instead.
Do you, after putting yourself through something like that, with minimal, consumption of calories and these crazy conditions with all these elements and in so much pain, did it make you think of what the human body is actually capable of?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think people actually probably about 10% of what they're capable of is what they deliver.
Wow.
And I'm all about getting maximum out of yourself and challenging yourself to learn more about yourself. In those races, you go to dark places.
Yeah.
You really
In
do.
your mind?
You really do. Everybody will tell you that. It's hard for everybody. No matter how experienced a person is, it's tough to be out in the desert. I mean, in 2014, I went back to Marathon des Sables. I was in great shape to do well in it. And indeed, I was in like 5th place overall. And one of the guys in my tent, Mike Julien, he had leukemia. He shouldn't really have been out there trying, but his battle was to prove that cancer doesn't need to define people.
Wow.
And he'd got a lot of people watching him, as I had in 2012 when I was doing it as the first vegan woman. And he came back to the tent on day 2 in tears and said, I can't do that. I can't go back out there. I just can't do it. It's too horrible. And I stepped up and said, okay, we've got a problem. We want this tent to finish.
Yeah.
We want this tent to finish. Ironically, in the tent were 4 guys that you kind of, these tents like Berber tents, and you go and you're literally walking around on the Friday night you arrive in the desert saying, is there any room in this tent for me? No. Okay. And you find a tent that's got a berth for one. I like to be in the edge of the tent because I like to keep myself to myself. And I saw this tent. There was one guy standing there, looked quite nice. So I said, is there any room in here? And he said, that side's free and this half's taken. Okay, I'll settle down over there. I didn't realise, I sort of cracked it. I didn't realise that amongst their party was Tom Borridge, the BBC news reporter.
Oh, wow.
And he was making a documentary
really?
about their race. I thought, bingo, I've cracked on here. By day 2, Mike's really, really struggling. And I said, look, Mike, if you can get through tomorrow, which is 30 odd K, and you still want to do the long stage, which was a long one, 80 odd, I'll do it with you. And he said, but you're in 5th place. I said, I know, but I'll stay with you if no one else will. No one else will,
Waiting for someone, anyone?
No one anywhere. And so anyway, I went toddled off the next day. It was brutal the next day, as I remember, a lot of dunes. And I got back to my camp, and I was literally still riding very, very hard. Went to bed, cooked my meal, and I heard some clapping at the finish line. It was dark, and it was Mike. And he came over the finish line, staggered over and said, does your offer stand for tomorrow? Because I want to give it a shot. And he threw himself into my arms, and I said, of course it does. I couldn't say, I've changed my mind. I'm doing really well. I want to hit the long stage hard. And he was compassion over competition. I really wanted him to do it. Yeah. And it was brutal out there. We were 20 odd hours out there with him. He was on chemotherapy. I was having to remind him to take his chemotherapy, his water. He was in a right state. But we got through it together, and actually it's probably one of the proudest things I've done with my running.
Wow.
But ironic that the person that they said in the race, vegans only, they care more about animals than people. It was the vegan person that cared more about another person that I chucked away my race for him, in essence.
Amazing.
I went the next day and won the marathon stage, but, I'd lost so much time. I couldn't make it.
But it was completely worth it for you.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where the misconception with veganism is. It's, you're in the animal camp, you're not in the human camp. Oh, no, we're in everybody's camp.
Yeah.
We are animals.
Yeah.
You know, it's compassion for all, not just for some.
Exactly, and I guess like living here in the UK, we don't see humans caged up being exploited and murdered by the million, but we see animals being caged up and murdered by the million. I mean, so that's going to take up the majority of our time. But I'm sure if there were children being exploited and women being exploited and killed like right here on our doorstep, like they are with animals, we'd be, you know, more compelled to help.
I mean, I agree, but you know, we do see some terrible atrocities, and it's really, really. I know when I went off to do one of my events, I was doing a week. I was gone for a week, and the headline on the paper when I went out there was, it was ISIS, and they burned a soldier alive in a cave.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I can't look at it. I'll be glad to be in the desert and away from headlines and away from all this social media. Not got a phone or anything. It's very liberating. And then I got back on the plane to come home, and I think it was 200 and odd people beheaded on a beach I can't quite remember where. And I just thought, this really is happening in our world.
In our world, definitely,
today. So we do in the West, we know what's happening, but I think there is a resistance to accept it because it's not directly affecting us. As with the climate crisis and what's happening to the animals, it's not affecting me, what's happening to them. And we need to embrace the idea our actions are exacerbating this or making this happen. We need to take responsibility and understand that we don't just act when it affects us. We need to act before, because when it does affect us, it will be too late.
Yep. And I guess we are in a position of privilege, all of us that have freedom here in this first world country, and we have the freedom of movement, and we can do what we want, and you know, and we should be sacrificing our time and freedom to help those who have theirs taken from them.
We have a freedom and a privilege.
A privilege, yeah.
I believe truly we have a duty. We have a duty to others. There are the most horrendous things happening around the world, and I know it's controversial to say it, and you guys are too young to remember this, but it's like, I've tried to analyse things. People have asked me questions. Well, why do you do this? Why do you do this? I've just been steaming on ahead. I've not thought, I sat down and thought, I must do that next. This has been like one long... And I've had to actually check back when people have asked, and why did I do that? Why did I do that? And in 1984, we had images, in this country certainly, broadcast to from the mainstream, Live Aid, Bob Geldof. And we saw suffering in Ethiopia, certainly that my family and I'd never seen the like of. At that point, from that point on, we've had no excuse. Things are happening around this planet, and we have the opportunity and the power to make a difference. We just don't do it because we think it's not happening to us. And that's the same as with the animals in the cages. It's not us, and we don't care.
We don't have that sense of urgency to look directly, you know, and that's why I think this environmental crisis is, you know, creating these massive marches, because it's going to affect us directly. And it's a sad thing. Like
exactly, it's a sad thing that a lot of the time. I mean, I've been talking about the climate. I've been talking about the way our actions impact others for years and years and years. Nobody's bothered because it's not impacting them directly. The urgency now with the climate is because it's coming to our door. We should feel ashamed. We should be overly keen to act now, because we should be thinking now, but it's been at their door for years and we've done nothing.
Exactly.
You know, and that's so bad. And as I say, 1984 for me pivoted as an adult. If you weren't doing something after that, then you really need to take blame. You know, you really need to take on the mantle and really understand that this is partly due to you, and you have a responsibility and a duty now to join in and embrace this.
It's about being accountable, and then you know, like part of my change was like, I've done so much wrong in my past, and now it's time to change and give back. You know, for you, you've always been a compassionate person. It must be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I mean, I remember speaking to an activist many, many years ago, a guy called Keith Mann, very active activist back in the 90s. And the first time I met him, I'd just got the sanctuary, and Keith had come out of prison. And I said, Keith, do you ever wish you were like everyone else? He said, almost every day. I wish I could just turn away, but I can't. I said, that's exactly how I am. I can't ignore it. I can't ignore it. Because it's happening to them, it's happening to me. It's a reflection on me that my species is allowing it to happen to them. Therefore, it's imperative that we do something. And for me, it's just not an option to not act. It's not an option to not step in where you can. It's just not an option to feign ignorance. And sometimes I do wonder with people, we live in a very sophisticated society where, electronic banking, they travel the world, to say that they don't know where meat comes from, or they didn't kind of click that there must be some suffering involved in mass producing animals in crates. They enjoy it, do they? Enjoy living in a crate, look at the standard you expect for yourself and your animal, your dog, your companion animal, and you're telling me that you think pigs enjoy living in crates and they're bred for it?
They know. There's something that they intuitively know is wrong. And even if they're not living in a crate, there's a chopped up animal on your plate.
Yeah.
Whether you think they had a happy life or not, they're chopped up on your plate. Now, intuitively, you know something bad happened along the way.
Yeah, even in a slaughterhouse, can you imagine the fear, the desperation, the
smell of blood and,
they know what's
screams.
happening. And these animals don't necessarily communicate the way we do. They're very, very much emotion-based, and they have heightened senses, so they know what's going on. They really do know what's
That's why
going on.
they need to be prodded down the kill line.
Yeah, of course they do.
High welfare animals or not, they're prodded.
Queuing up to be killed.
Yeah.
Queuing up to be killed, desperately writhing and trying to... a lot of animals actually break their own necks trying to get away. They injure themselves and look horrible. And what really shocks me is these transporters now. There's been a spate of transporters that are turning over. We have one locally of 39 cows. We shouldn't be moving animals en masse. We shouldn't be doing this. You think an animal is designed to live in a field, be in a herd, not in a cattle truck, not 3 deep in a pig lorry, not crated up
In a
a
shed.
chicken. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Covered in their own feces. And,
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's actually, it's shame on humanity for allowing this to continue. We need to evolve beyond this.
Fortification is empty.
Yeah, and I honestly, as much as I felt like hating humanity, I honestly don't think it's consistent with the values most people hold. Most people, I don't have to argue with them about, do you support animal cruelty? Most people are like, no, of course I don't. But I'm like, I have to try to help them connect the dots between what they're reading and what they are actually supporting.
It's the brainwashing of the manufacturers and the people invested in making a lot of money from this, marketing
humane
of
and
this.
green pastures.
And even things when you actually analyse it, like a Christmas card, you see the Victorian lady walking in with the turkey and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, like all the film, everything you see, it's all this subliminal kind of, it's okay, endorsing it, programming,
Deity.
it's normal, it's natural. And it's really, really hard for people, some people who probably, got different kind of triggers or motors in their brain to break free from it and say, no, actually, that is wrong. I can see that that's wrong. Very often, they just need to have it explained to them. But I think deep down, people do know.
What you've just said then triggered something, a thought in my mind about something called the standby effect. It's like a car accident might happen and there'll be like a group of people watching and no one will do anything. They're all frozen. But then when one person runs up to help, then the next person runs up to help, and then I think that's what's happening with the activist
Is it like the
movement.
Stockholm syndrome, where like they have an experiment where they probably have 19 people who are in on it and one person, innocent standby, who isn't, and they'll ask a series of questions, and it'll be like, what day is it today? Tuesday, and they'll all say the same thing, and it'll be all correct. And then they'll randomly, after about the 10th question, say, what day is Christmas Day? And one will say 24th.
Casey,
and it'll go along the line. The bloke who's not in it will be thinking, have I got it wrong?
Yeah.
And invariably, they'll go with the crowd and say 24th of December, because they don't want to be different. They doubt themselves. That's something I feel blessed. I've never had self-doubt.
And you don't have the fear of what other people think either.
No.
Like if you believe in your own principles, it doesn't matter what people think about you. Yeah, that's the strength that a lot of people just don't have.
Yeah, it's like something, like if you talk about people who make a difference, or like a game changer or something like that. They don't stand by and do what they're told. They do what is right despite what they are told.
Heart.
In their heart. And you know when you're doing something, you know it's right, and nothing can wave you from your beliefs. People say, oh, you're really lucky. Yeah, I think I am lucky that I've known this from a very early age and I haven't had to go through. I don't look down on other people. I had one guy write to me. He was 84 years old. He just lost his wife to Alzheimer's, and he's making this correlation between her disease and eating meat. And he said, you probably won't want to speak to me, and I'm probably your worst enemy. And I'm saying, no, embrace it.